Ladies and gentlemen, if you would be so kind to take your seats now, and also if you have any electronic device or cell phone with you today, if you'd be so kind to silence that. Thank you.
In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking J. Feinstein's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. Psalm 15. Mizmor LaDavid Adonai mi yagur ba'ohalecha mi yishkon bahar kodshecha holech tamim ufoel tzedek v'dover emet bilvavo. Lo ragal al eshono lo asa l'reyehu ra'a v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo. Nivzeh be'enav nim'as ve'et yirei Adonai yechabed nishba lahara v'lo yamir. Kaspo lo natan beneshech v'shochad al naki lo lakach ose ele lo yimot la'olam. Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity, do what is right, speak the truth without deceit. Have no slander upon your tongue, do no evil to others, do not mistreat your neighbor. Spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere the Lord. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Lend no money at unfair rates, accept no bribe against the innocent. Make these deeds your own, then shall you stand firm forever. And from Psalm 103, Kirachem av al banim richam Adonai al yerei av, ki hu yada yitzreinu yat zachur ki afar anachnu. Enosh kechatzir yamav ketzitza sadeh ken yatzitz, ki ruach avrabo ve'enenu velo yakirenu od mekomo. V'chesed Adonai me'olam v'yad olam al yerei av v'tzitkato livnei vanim. As a father has compassion for his children, God has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them, and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging. A few people have been designated to share words of eulogy, and we begin with Jay's daughter-in-law, Jen.
These are Joyce's words. I'm just speaking for her. I believe in things being beshert, fated, because the way I met Jay was unexpected. Neither of the people who introduced us were our good friends. I was a senior at Towson, and Jay was a senior at the University of Maryland Dental School. Jay chose Maryland, even though he was accepted to Georgetown and the University of Pennsylvania dental schools. That was luck for me. Otherwise, we never would have met. Jay was about to be stationed to Amarillo Air Force Base. He was to work at the dental clinic with the rank of captain during the Vietnam War. Just before he left for Texas, we got engaged, and I joined him 8 months later after our wedding. What a perfect experience for newlyweds. As a young couple, we were away from the influences of home and began our life depending on each other. After the service, Jay practiced dentistry, working for another dentist in Baltimore. After 2 years, he found his own practice in Silver Spring. He practiced there for 40 years. During those years, we had 2 fantastic sons who married wonderful wives and 6 superlative grandchildren. Jay was a native Washingtonian whose family moved to Silver Spring. He attended Northwood High School. Jay's father was a biochemist. His mom was a homemaker and secretary. Jay's brother is an attorney and is here with us today. As a child, Jay loved working with model airplanes and taking art lessons. I was so fortunate to have Jay as my husband. He was loving and very supportive. We both loved to travel and visited South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, several countries in Europe, Russia, Central and South America, and of course Israel, the first time with Rabbi and Mrs. Halpern and shared it full of friends. I was so blessed to have Jay for 57 years. Even when Jay developed dementia and I had to resort to a facility, I could still kiss him, hug him, walk with him in his wheelchair. We both loved to walk in Arbor Place's garden. He would look at the flowers, hold my phone, and we would both listen to the music. The staff at Arbor Place became family to both of us. There'll never be in my life someone like Jay. I was so lucky to have him.
Morning, everybody. My dad was known as Mr. Cautious. That was the name my kids gave him after about the 20th time that he told them to get down from something they were climbing, or to run slower, or to not jump in the canal behind the beach house. But the moniker was exclaimed by my kids with love and laughter. And the truth is, he needed to be cautious because my mom would allow the kids to do anything. Someone had to rein them in. In some ways, he was like that my entire life. If I asked him for permission to do something, his first response would always be no. It would annoy me as a child, but now I understand it. My mom and dad acted always as a team, and parenting was no exception. So if my mom was always going to say yes, someone had to counterbalance that. Even if it meant being the bad guy, my dad could play that role if necessary, but he didn't need to do that very much. My brother and I were very lucky, and we were lucky enough to be raised by 2 parents who were always there to support us. We were fortunate never to question that. Not to say that everything was perfect, since no family is, but my parents were always able to navigate the ups and downs in a way that worked for them and for us. My mom and dad relied on each other for everything, and they always loved each other unconditionally. It's a pretty amazing relationship that inspires me today. And as a side note, I am very impressed with the way my mom has navigated the last several years as my dad has slipped into dementia. She took on more and more responsibilities and was able to successfully adapt, and I'm very proud of her because it hasn't been easy for her or any of us. My father was never the star quarterback, was never president of his class, never the homecoming king. Very few people in the world are any of those things, and while they're great for popularity, those accomplishments do not create a life. Character and morality do. My father was smart, dependable, ethical, and solid. His dental practice was successful while also treating people the way they should be treated. He never took advantage of anyone. He was always there for my mom, my brother, and me as a support system, never telling us what to do, but always there for a consultation or a discipline if needed. He was also there for the greater community, volunteering on the board at the Community Civic Association, taking pictures as part of the Paint Branch High School Football Booster Club, volunteering in the Rockville Signage Committee once he retired, amongst other things. It may sound cliche, but my dad's story is kind of a true American 20th century success story. Graduated college, go to dental school, meet wife in dental school, join the Air Force, start working as a dentist, have a kid, buy a dental practice, have another kid, work hard, and retire at 71. In between all these milestones, he had the good fortune to travel the world with my mom, play around with Apple computers while they're in their infancy, buy 3 boats and sell 3 boats, and enjoy 25 years in Ocean City at their condo. Not a bad life. To me, my dad was the exemplar of what a man should be, honest, hardworking, and there for his family. I've always tried to model my life after him. I always compared my life's milestones to his, and I always wanted to be like him. and I always sought his approval. The last several years, as he transitioned into dementia that would eventually overtake him, not having him for advice has been challenging. Furthermore, not being able to show off the kids to him as they graduated high school and moved on to college, is something that all people who have lost parents have gone through, except I hadn't lost him yet. Having him still there as a body but unable to interact fully with us has been incredibly sad for all of us. It's a horrible disease, and I just hope that he was comfortable as the disease took hold and not in any pain. And especially now, I sincerely hope he's in a better place, and I will miss him always, and I always love my dad.
Thank you to Jen and Mark, and we call on Craig.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I would like to share with you what my father meant to me and who my father was. One of my earliest memories of my father is when I was 2 years old in Baltimore, and he came back from work and gave me a set of maroon, purple, and brown toy barrels. I remember thinking then that this might be the best thing that has ever happened to me. We moved to Silver Spring when I was almost turned 3. I remember my father taking me to the Washington Monument around that time. I know it had to be around that time when I was 3 because I remember my father lifting me up to see out of the window at the top of the monument, which is not really that high for an adult. When I went back there, it was pretty small. I found, I was kind of surprised. One of my favorite memories with my father is me and him going to Washington, D.C. to take a class on magic at the Smithsonian Museum, taught by Christian the magician, and also going with my father to a David Copperfield show in D.C. We also, going to D.C. with my father was always a treat. My father always cared about me and my brother Mark, and there are countless good memories with him. My father's Hebrew name is Yaakov, which translates to Jacob in English. Genesis 25:27 says, V'Yaakov ish tam yoshev oalim, meaning Jacob was an innocent man dwelling in tents. The medieval biblical commentator Rashi interprets the words ish tam as follows, which means an innocent man, someone who is not sharp to engage in deceit is called tam. In other words, a person unwise in the ways of trickery, conniving, and making fast deals is called a tam. I just plagiarized that off of the internet translation of it. I gotta say that. I think these words describe who my father was perfectly. As his son for 55 years, never once did I see or hear my father lie or try to deceive anyone. And from what I could tell, even if he wanted to lie or deceive anyone, I don't think he could have done it. It was just not in his nature. I miss my father, but I am comforted that I have my own children and nephews who in various ways embody who my father was. And I hope that my own children and nephews will look to my father as a role model. My father was not a very religious man, but I have never met any religious man more honest than him. As you know, for the last 8 years of his life, my father had Alzheimer's disease. I want to thank everyone who cared for him during that time. Also, on behalf of my wife Eliza and my kids, and I think all of Mark's kids also, want to thank including the staff at Arbor Place, where he lived for his last 3 years, and the team at Casey House Hospice, and my brother Mark and his wife Jen for their support. Most of all, I would like to thank my mother. Her sacrifice and devotion to my father during his illness were extraordinary. From the beginning, she became his defender and protector, facing the challenges of his illness with her unique blend of anxiety and optimism. My wife wrote that. Anyway, I didn't write. Anyway, thank you again for you all being here.
Thank you, Craig. One of his grandchildren, Andrew.
Hi, everyone. I think that my speech is going to overlap a little with my dad's, but I just have a quick 3 stories kind of to tell. First, I want to tell you all about what we always called our grandfather. He was Mr. Cautious, and I think that was his name before any of us knew what cautious even meant. But we thought it was hilarious. A memory that I have that sums up his name quite well was years ago. I remember my brother and I were jumping into the canal behind the old beach house. We were having a great time, and Bubby was just watching us, laughing. All of a sudden, Grandpa came out and started telling us to get out of the water. And I don't remember him yelling, and frankly, I don't often remember him yelling. Honestly, I don't even know for sure if this memory actually happened or not. But even if it didn't, looking back, I only remember a truly concerned voice, just trying to keep us safe. We always would try to go against his caution, because that's what kids do. But in the end, he was always just looking out for us in his own way. Another memory I have with my grandpa is when we went to a nice dinner, just the 2 of us. I remember getting there, and I so wanted to prove that I was mature, or whatever that meant for an 8-year-old. And I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. Instead of questioning my decision, Grandpa laughed and allowed me to get it. I love looking back at this meal and seeing how kind and gentle he was to allow an 8-year-old kid, who obviously wasn't going to finish this meal, to order such an expensive dinner. My final little story comes from a trip we took for my 10th birthday. For those that don't know, Bubby and Grandpa took each of their 6 grandchildren on a double-digits trip to somewhere they wanted to go. For me, it was a Disney cruise. Although I have a ton of fond memories from this trip, what my mind always goes back to is what we ate. And on this boat, there was a buffet, and I remember seeing Grandpa get these lamb chops. Obviously, I immediately grabbed those as well. Now, I'd never had a lamb chop before, but I remember wanting to be just like my grandfather, and it didn't matter what I ate as long as he saw me and was happy. My grandfather taught me a lot during our time together. He taught me kindness, and he taught me how to keep others safe, even if he did have a bit of a strange way of going about that one. But most of all, he taught me, just by being here, how to be a great husband, how father, grandfather, and how to be there for the ones you love. And one day, just like my 10-year-old self, I hope to be just like him. I love you and miss you. We'll miss you, Grandpa. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Andrew. And finally, Melanie Thompson and Bill Green, who Jay sold the practice to.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dr. Melanie Thompson. This is my husband, Bill. I'm honored to be asked by Joyce to speak about Dr. Feinstein. Bill and I came to know him as a kind, generous father figure that helped us continue the thriving dental practice that he grew and maintained over the years. He was a man of deep character, integrity, and compassion. For decades, he dedicated himself to the dental profession. But he was more than a dentist. He was a man of faith, a proud member of the Jewish community. He held dear values of compassion, generosity, and unwavering commitment to helping others. To his family, Joyce and Mark and Andrew, it was evident you were his greatest source of pride. He spoke of you often and the joy you and his grandchildren brought him. I will certainly miss Jay. It was an honor to follow in his footsteps. He created a tradition of empathy and understanding in a profession that most people truly hate to patronize, which I don't understand why. I'm kidding. To this day, my patients still fondly remember Jay as their dentist. And it was a gift to me that we truly connected, and we had a similar philosophy of caring for patients. He was a gentle presence, and his kindness was his trademark. I just lost my... his sense of humor, his warm smile, and his ability to truly listen were an inspiration to me. He found joy in sharing his stories. And in sharing a bit of wisdom when it was needed most. Today, as we say goodbye, let us remember not just Dr. Feinstein, the dentist, but as the man who made our lives better, brighter, and more connected. I want to honor his memory by following his example of kindness, generosity, and community. May Jay rest in peace, and may his family and loved ones find comfort in the legacy of love and care that he leaves behind. Thanks.
I want to thank everyone who shared beautiful words with us. We extend our condolences to Joyce, to Jay's children, Craig, Eliza, Mark, and Jennifer, to his grandchildren, Justin, Alex, Ruth, Andrew, Jonathan, and Jordan, to his brother Henry, and to all his extended family. The rabbis, in a collection of adages known as Pirkei Avot, in which they teach about the essence of a meaningful spiritual life, ask the following question: Ezehu Ashir, who is wealthy? The rabbis recognize that people might assume that our purpose as human beings on earth is to amass as much wealth as possible in order to ensure comfort and happiness. And we all know people who seem to live their lives accordingly. But the rabbis answer that the truly wealthy person, the person who would be most satisfied and happy in life, would be one who is sameach bechelko, happy with what they have. A meaningful life, the rabbis teach us, is one in which we can be happy with who we are and with the people who are in our lives. Jay Feinstein was raised in D.C. and graduated from Northwood High School. He went to University of Maryland Dental School, and in his senior year, as we heard, there he was set up on a date with a woman who was a senior at Towson University. Joyce's friend had set them up, and they immediately hit it off. They had some things in common. Both had an Aunt Ida, and both shared the same birthday, 3 years apart. 6 months later, they were engaged, and he graduated dental school. After he graduated dental school, they moved to Texas to serve a stint in the Army, then back to Baltimore, the practice in Silver Spring. It was a successful career that enabled Jay to provide a comfortable life for Joyce and the kids, and enabled them to travel in retirement. But more than the comfortable living, Jay lived up to what the rabbis taught. He was happy with what he had and who he was. He enjoyed working with his hands, not only while treating patients, but also in his hobbies. He painted. His artwork adorns the walls of their home. He built furniture. He did light construction projects in his home as well. And he used those talents by serving on our synagogue's architectural design committee for the design and construction of this very building. And Jay was happiest, though, with his family. Jay knew right away that he found his soulmate in Joyce. They lived a happy and fulfilling life together for 57 years. They raised 2 children, and he got to see them married and to enjoy being a grandfather. He was happy making Joyce happy, and it was truly a blessing that his last days were spent surrounded by his family. May Jay's life teach us to be happy with what we have. May his life inspire us to appreciate our skills and to experience the blessing of family. May Jay's memory always be a source of blessing and comfort. Tehi nishmatot tzura b'tzura chayim. May Jay's soul be bound in the bond of eternal life. Amen. Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai ro'i lo echsar. Bina odesha yarbitzeni almei menuchot yinahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magalei tzedek lama'an shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yinachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sararai. Tishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. If we know it by heart in English, let's say it out loud together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Before we conclude the service, just a note that from here we will proceed to Judean Gardens, just a half a mile down the road, for the interment service, and from there proceed to Joyce's home in Rockville for Shiva. Shiva, the traditional mourning period, will be held through the weekend with an opportunity to have a service for Joyce and the family to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. So we'll have a service this afternoon at 2 o'clock, tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, and Sunday evening at 7:30. So 2 o'clock today. There's no Shiva on Shabbat, on the day on the Sabbath day, but Saturday night when Shabbat is over, Shiva resumes. So 7 o'clock Saturday night, 7:30 Sunday night for the services. We rise now, if we can, for the El Male, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bam Romim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tacha Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alo Kedoshim Toharim, Kezahar Harakia Masirim, Et Nishmat, Yaakov Hirsch, Ben Label, Vitzipora, Shehalach Lo Lamo, Began Eden Tehe Menuchato, Ana Bala Harachamim, Hasti Rehu Beseter Kanafecha Lo Olamim, Utzra B'tzra Chayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'shalom Amishkavo, V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Yaakov Hirsch ben Label Vitzipora, to the soul of Jay Feinstein, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. Amen.